But this poll is interesting. It's over 5,700 people polled for PLMR, the PR company, and Electoral Calculus. It's an MRP mega poll, we call it. Reform to gain 170 seats, and at the expense of both the Tories and Labour, although Tories do gain 50 or so seats. But it means that the next election, were this to happen tomorrow, would be a three-way tie. Very unusual in our country to have a three-way tie between three parties. It would give Nigel Farage that balance of power, allowing him to work out who wants to do a deal with, probably the Tory party, given the party's policies. In percentage terms, the Conservatives on 23%, tied with Labour, behind Reform on 24%. Look at the personalities who may be losing their seats here. Wes Streeting, surprisingly, to the Tory party. He would lose his seat to the Tory party. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, to Reform. Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, also to Reform. And Jonathan Reynolds, the Business Secretary, also to Reform. So problems here, and I think I've seen a change in the language this week from Labour on Reform. We saw it in PMQs on Wednesday when Sir Keir Starmer took a swipe at Nigel Farage from what I think is a planted question by a backbench Labour MP, and then himself, Farage, was called, of course, by the Speaker, and then was shouted down, or tried to be shouted down, by Labour. They are worried about Reform. It's not a Tory problem so much as a Labour problem. I'm here, by the way, in a location in London we can't disclose, for a cabinet away day, a meeting of the cabinet. The private, the political cabinet meets after the main cabinet. It could go on any time for 2 hours or all day. They are discussing behind me in the building growth and public services reform. Growth because, of course, the Bank of England has halved growth rates for this year, although there's better news on cuts in interest rates. But the choices being made by this government are worrying some backbenchers. I've spoken to my podcast to Jo White. She is the chair of the Red Wall caucus of Labour MPs, around 40 of those, and they think they are worried about a southern bias in some of the spending choices made by Rachel Reeves, and what they want to see is a Red Wall MP in the cabinet. Here's what she told me on Choppers.
But so do you want to have a voice in the cabinet?
Oh my God.
Not you personally, just a Red Wall...
Or Red Wall voice.
I have to support you in the cabinet.
No.
A Red Wall voice, a more of a northern voice. I mean...
Yes, I do. I most definitely do. If and when there's a reshuffle, yes, I'd be loudly cheering for a strong voice from...
But the budget, I felt, was quite southern focused. Or the announcements, from Rachel Reeves last week, Oxbridge Rail Line...
she went for the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, but she didn't really... I think the North was a bit ignored, I think.
I agree.
You're nodding, yeah.
I agree. And there was a level of anger from my Red Wall colleagues. And my challenge to Rachel is do that speech again in the North, telling our story, because by telling a story, you're actually attracting inward investment and you're attracting new businesses. So come to the North, please, Rachel. You are Leeds MP.
Correct.
Tell our story, and we have a good one, and where we want to invest and where we want to get the new skills. And I'll be clapping loudly from the sidelines.
Rachel Reeves there. Come to the North, she's told by a senior Labour backbench MP. Fascinating here that an MP for a northern constituency, Rachel Reeves, is not apparently prioritising the areas where Labour need to, with Reform strongly. And just finally on Jo White, I think she's very interesting, Labour MP. She understands the threat of Reform. I asked her about the issue of these Pakistani heritage rape gangs. She said it's not far right to criticise them and criticise them, but also the authorities' response. Someone like Jo White are listening to the pressure from Reform UK and are responding. Will the government behind me do the same thing?
OK, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? The attacks on Reform from Labour especially, Wes Streeting targeting their stance on the NHS. We heard it as well from other Labour types. We had that dossier last week, or was it earlier this week, that's being put together by Labour Together, I think headed by Jonathan Ashworth, on how to defeat Reform. So you just get the feeling maybe Labour are starting to pay a bit more attention to Mr Farage and his colleagues.
Well, I mean, Kemi Badenoch as well. She, from the Conservative side of things, has appeared to be worried about Reform UK as well. And I have said that actually I thought that the bulk of the people who would defect to Reform would be actually Labour voters, because they are it's more working man, it's more working class, it's more, just down-to-earth, straightforward, common-sense politics.
Yeah. Aaron Banks, the former UKIP man and Brexiteer, tweeted a few days ago, with the Conservatives 6 points behind Reform in a latest poll, wouldn't a Conservative merger with the Lib Dems make more sense?
Yeah.
They're culturally aligned and could win the odd seat in the South. Reform can then target Labour. I think Kemi Badenoch would disagree with that.
Now, celebrity chef Gino D'Acampo has been accused of sexually inappropriate behaviour following an ITV News investigation.
Dozens of people have come forward with allegations against him over a 12-year period.
Eves joins us now. Ed, thank you very much for joining us. So can you tell us a bit more about what some of these allegations are?
I think what's shocking about this is just the scale of it. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, it's across 14 years, and when you read the list of allegations, it's not on like one or two shows. It's on almost like every format he's worked on, and there's just so many, and a lot of them feel very similar to the Greg Wallace allegations as well. So it's sort of, you can see why he might think, oh, this is just banter, but why also other people might see it as highly inappropriate. Some of the stuff he's accused of doing, I couldn't say now on TV, for example. So it's sort of that level, and some of it involves a different place then.
Yeah. What are the TV companies he works for? ITV, of course, he's a regular on This Morning. What have they said about all this? And will he be on our screens whilst all this is being investigated?
Well, ITV haven't specified that, I don't think, but they've said they're committed to making sure people behave correctly. And he was sent on a course, a language and behavioural course, a little while ago. So that does indicate there's some problem. Whether or not he's guilty of all these very serious allegations is different. But I think, he hasn't been on This Morning much lately. There's been reports that they were sort of quietly phasing him out, and that does seem to have bore fruit. And then Family Fortunes hasn't been on for a little while, and I would be surprised, even if new episodes have been filmed, whether or not they air for...
All right, listen, Ed, we'll obviously follow that story. Really good to talk to you. That is Ed Cleave. He is a TV and showbiz editor at the Daily Star. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts and comments. We've been talking about Rachel Reeves. June says, Reeves, Starmer, Lammy, Rayner, a lot of the Labour group are out of their depth.
Yeah. I just have to read this legal response from Gino D'Acampo to give his fair share of reply. It says that Mr D'Acampo categorically denies these allegations of inappropriate sexual behaviour. A separate response from ITV said the broadcaster was not made aware of the original concerns in 2018, and they said ITV is completely committed to creating an environment where everyone is treated with respect and feels able to give their best. We can categorically confirm that this kind of behaviour is not tolerated by ITV. I guess the problem is, Nana, that even if he is completely exonerated, in the court of public opinion, you're branded now.
Yeah,
you've had all these allegations around you.